Hey buddies, Flak here, coming at you with another Borderlands 3 video. Today we're going to be talking about the Revolter shield and talking about how it kind of affects build diversity in the game itself. But before we get into it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. You have no idea how much it helps me out, and let's get into it. So first things first, let's actually introduce the Revolter shield. For those of you who know, Revolter shield is known as probably the best shield in the game. It has an amazing ability every single time it's depleted to give you 200% shock damage and 50% more fire rate. This is usually accompanied with an anointment for active skill start, activate any effects that trigger on shield break or fill. Now the reason why we're really talking about the Revolter today is because the Revolter is kind of seen in every single build, and I kind of want to discuss if like this necessarily ruins build diversity, and if it does, how can we really fix that? So first, let's talk about why people use it. 200% more damage of any element is going to be used pretty much exclusively in every single build. The only builds that don't normally use Revolter are going to be Iron Bear and some niche Iron Bear builds where they get out of the bear really quickly to run around as Moze even still uses a Revolter. Heck, I've even used a Revolter with some Iron Cub builds. The reason why this shield is considered so freaking good is because the name of the game in a lot of characters is to activate active skills. Like as Flak, I have a spammable action skill here. As Amara, you have spammable action skills. One of the skill trees, in fact, even allows you to use an action skill twice before it's even off cooldown. Zane is the worst offender. He constantly uses action skills over and over and over. Moze is the only one that doesn't necessarily have that problem. But the game kind of revolves around action skills. Action skills are so powerful in the game. A lot of the times they're such good utility that you never want to not use your action skill. Sure, a lot of the time your damage is going to come through your gun, but you're going to be proccing your action skill before you shoot your guns, even before the Revolter was a thing. And the reason why this is so good is because since we're already using it, we can use the anointment to increase the amount of damage we deal just basically free on every single character, and that just immediately makes it so much better than any other shield in the game. Back in the day, in the base game, there wasn't just one shield that was the be-all end-all to use. Sure, a lot of people use the Transformer and such like that, or even the Rad suit, but generally there wasn't a single shield that just allowed you to have a straight damage increase, especially as good as the Revolter. So generally there's a lot of diversity with shields. Now ever since the Revolter was added, or even if we go back a little bit more, when the Old God was added, Old God was exclusively used left and right. It was always used because it was just a free 50% more damage, but you still see some people not using Old God. But as soon as you add a damage multiplier on a piece of gear, people are going to go for it. For a lot of people, the name of the game is to deal as much damage as possible. And that's kind of the big problem with the Revolter. The Revolter does its job so well that no build will want to warrant to use any other shield. Sure, you could use a shield that's going to give you more defensive purposes, like the Bulkster, like the recent glitch that lets you get invulnerability, or even some other shield combos. There's tons of shield combos in the game, but the Revolter is just so easy to use, there's no reason not to use it, and that's a big problem. And compared to other shields we've had in the past, like the Infernal Wish and the Old God, if you look back at those two, the Infernal Wish gives you double the projectiles, so it's like kind of a balanced shield. You could be like, okay, so this shield will be used on certain guns, but not on other guns. While the Old God was like, okay, well I gotta have one element, so it's like, okay, I gotta like build around this shield or something like that. But with the Revolter, you don't have to worry about building your build around it at all. You just activate your abilities and you go ham. Now at this part of the video, I kind of want to discuss ways that maybe Gearbox could possibly fix this. And that's a really tricky subject because there's lots of ideas on how you could probably fix this shield to make it significantly worse. But an innate problem with that is that if you make it too bad, people are never going to use it. Like if you were to make it only a 25% increased shock damage all around, people might still use it, or they might just switch back to Old God. Or they'll be like, okay, why would I use that if I could just use my Infernal Wish to double my DPS? So it's kind of a tricky dance that the Gearbox developers really got to do to make the Revolter not a problem anymore. And I do believe it is a problem. It's literally the shield you use in every single build. It's kind of ridiculous. It increases your damage for like every single person except for Iron Bear and Iron Cub. Insanely valuable to have. So a way that I thought would be a good way to actually make it usable, but still a shield that is not going to be the be-all end-all, is to possibly make it so it only increases your fire rate. But the problem with that is, once again, as I said before, why would you increase your fire rate if you could just double your amount of projectiles. So there's like there's a huge balancing act that the Gearbox developers got to figure out to make this shield usable but not trash when they nerf it, because I really do feel like they're gonna nerf it or they're just gonna leave it be. If you're aware how Gearbox runs the show, it nerfs things kind of weirdly. It like nerfs things that don't need nerfs, or they'll like release something that they obviously haven't tested, like the Schluter, and then they'll nerf it after the community has an uproar. But they haven't quite done that for the Revolter, and that's totally fine. They didn't nerf it because it doesn't mess with their farming method like the Schluter did, but that's another can of worms for another day. So instead of an increase on shock damage for everything, possibly you could increase only shock damage, but then you're like, okay, but the old god already does that. Increasing the fire rate, maybe instead of by 50% by 100%, that could allow certain guns to shoot insanely fast that normally couldn't. Maybe even they can make that value huge, like 200% fire rate or something, make you shoot extremely fast. It could be competitively viable to the Infernal Wish, but for certain guns, it wouldn't be the best shield to use because the Infernal Wish double projectiles could be better comparatively, or even like based on magazine size, or like maybe it's only good for COV weapons. I don't know. There's a lot of tricky ways that they could make this shield better than it is right now in a way that won't break the game and will still make people happy by making it not a trash item. Because how it is now, you just use it and you basically double or even triple the damage that you deal on every single thing that you do. So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of like how people don't like the Guardian Angel. But the difference between the Revolter and the Guardian Angel is that the Guardian Angel allowed for certain builds to be created. Like if you watch my last video on the Guardian Angel, click up here if you want to watch that. There was around 220 builds in total that were used in the meta, and then when the Guardian Angel were introduced, about 40% of those builds were better because of the Guardian Angel, and then there was a 10% more build diversity because it created around 40 more builds in the game that were actually meta viable that weren't good enough without the Guardian Angel, like certain grenade builds. But you guys can watch that up on top right. But with the Revolter, every single build got better. Like there wasn't a single build besides Iron Bear and Iron Cup that didn't just get better by the Revolter and just activating action skill. So I do feel like the Revolter in itself is kind of a problem, but besides just removing the actual damage and maybe increasing the fire rate, I can't think of a lot of ways they can actually make the shield not be the king of all shields and still retain its desired ability that the developers created for it. But if you guys have an idea on how they should nerf the Revolter, please say it down below. I don't feel like it should just be a decrease in damage, because then people just switch to something else. It has to be creative enough where people will want to use it on an off chance, or be like, oh, okay, this does this for me, while this shield will do this for me, so this should be used in certain builds. I would love to hear your ideas, but as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I hope y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.
And the last shall be first to immerse in a pass out heat, facing him out with a moxie melt till he woke up drowning in tchotchke hell. War in a cave with a torch on a wall, then a window arrangement of porcelain dolls.